And usually that is usually what is enough for him. That is usually what is available from him. He doesn't have enough, more than this. But this is what his subordinate is telling him. So that is not enough for him. That's very true. What about you?
You have, I think, multiple options here. Either reduce the scope rather than the 3 pump stations being with him. Give him only 1 and retender for the 2. Because you need to, as well, have to consideration the tendering process and the evaluation takes time. It could take 3 to 5 months to award a new one. And you need to look at your critical path and see whether pump station number 1 is your critical path. So you have an award, just let him focus on 1 and you can tender the remaining. And if your due diligence that you did on after award, which should have happened before award on the contractor, is still very bad, then you can go back to the second bidder, the second lowest bidder, and renegotiate the price with him again. So there are multiple options that you can. It depends on the risk profile and on the planning, on the time. And as you said, how much your tolerance to take risk in terms of the overall project circumstances.
Perfect answer, and that's very true. And still, we didn't see also there is some other, when we, like, if we try to solve this with a heat map, we will have a different, maybe non-conclusion. Like, for example, if we said, for this decision, if we could have a risk decision, we have a risk register for this decision only, not for the whole project. For example, we have risk A and risk B. So which one is greater? Which one is more important? If we are going to invest like $1 million of losses to reduce the risk that we have with these contractors, will it be worth it or not? So we still, the A and B doesn't give us like a 5x4 and 4x5, just a 20 and 20, so we don't really know. And then what is the overall risk exposure? How much risk we are exposed to? So we still actually don't really know how. I'm losing $3 million or I'm losing $100,000. So how much we actually losing? Are we going to be delayed 1 or 2 years, or actually we are in good hands? So, and is risk B may affect our like revenue, or affect our like IRR, or affect our project schedule and budget or not? So these questions are not totally understandable under a heat map, but it can get some indications from a heat map. It's not a bad approach, but still lacking more definitive understanding. How far are we from our risk tolerance? How good or bad are we from our risk tolerance? So the key challenges of the heat map is how confusing of some sort of a scoring can't aggregate the risk impact. Risk is not connected to the objective. You cannot connect it to the objective directly to see how much of any of your decision you have mentioned will impact my delivery date, will impact my budget. So we have to understand, like, realize that we need to put ourselves out of the heat map. Maybe it's a starting point, but should not be an ending point when we are realizing the risks we have in our project. So what you are seeing here is the Safran integrated cost and schedule risk analysis. So every decision is not only cost, and it's not only schedule. And some clients will be preferring cost over time, and some clients will be preferring time over cost. But at the end, it's just an equation between the two. So this model is reflecting here. This is the budgets. This is on the x-axis. This is how much expenditure we're going to get, and this is the y-axis, and the x-axis is how much the dates of delivery we are getting. And the dots you're seeing here is the thousands of scenarios that may happen. And the green zone you're seeing here is our chances to be having the budget and the schedule within. So any of the decisions you have mentioned have a different outcome of delivery dates, a different outcome of budgets. But at the end of the day, you need the decision, the scenario that gives you a much bigger greener zone. You need it to be more green than as ever. You need more scenarios to be within the budget and the cost. So to make sure that we are making the better decision than the other one, not just looking from the perspective of cost, not just looking from the perspective of time. You need to look from the holistic perspective of cost and time. And this not only the thing, we need also to understand how much risk tolerance you have, or what is your risk attitude. Are you a risk averse organization, or you are risk neutral, or you're risk convex? I'm not talking here about curves or charts or just feelings. Later on, we will talk about numbers. How much I can withstand to delay, how much I can withstand to lose money. And this will define another important thing. Out of these scenarios, out of these different simulations, out of this different iterations for every decision you have mentioned, which actually align with what we're going to talk about, is some scenarios will get your company liquidated. Some scenarios, the finance will stop. Nobody will pay for more for this project. Some scenarios will make this project actually not feasible. So you want to one that the overall scenarios doesn't put you outside of your risk tolerance barrier. You want the scenarios that makes you, the decision that makes you within this barrier of scenarios. So you make sure that you're not also making a scenario that have a green zones, but also have a very critical scenario that actually, like we'll call a black swans, that can put you in a very bad situation, or even a grave rhino that is visible for you. You can see it, but you actually cannot say when it will come. So this kind of scenarios you also want to protect yourself from. So at the end, we need to take decisions that put us having a risk positive or risk positive informed decision, making more decision and get us aligned to our project. Look, every minor decision you take in the project, you're getting more aligned to your project objectives, not far away, like outside, like negative decisions. You're not getting far from your current budgets or your current schedules. You're actually getting closer and more positive and more closer to what you should be. And this should be based on data. It cannot be based on just opinion. It cannot be based on without what we think. Because any tool you use, even Monte Carlo, non-Monte Carlo tools, at the end, it needs data. So you need to install a system that collects and enhance and refine and learn from what happened and what can happen later on. So what we did, we have built a decision risk register, not a project risk register, for every decision we have, and to understand what are the possibilities for every decision. And also we collected the data, the project history, the correlations between the event, the productivity, the contractors, the subcontractors, and so on, and also the other references for other projects, maybe that can give us a better indication. And we connected all of this into a risk model just to represent all realistic possible scenarios that we can have in every decision, in every scenario. Okay. Yeah. So this is what we have came out. We had some blind spots that the client didn't actually realize from the beginning. First, the retendering in past history took 6 to 7 months to have this contractor working with us. Even though we have 8 months of load, 7 or 6 months of this is just consumed in just retendering, okay? Second thought is the project pumps is actually arriving 4 months from now. And if there is no contractor at site to receive these pumps, to manage these pumps, to install it in the foundation, to work with it, that will be a very big problem. Because this is like a multi-million dollars pumps, and it has to be managed very well and very keenly by someone. And this contractor has provided a low-ball offer, actually. He has, to win this bid, he has undercut everybody else by 25%. So it's actually, you're not going to get a better offer than this. Most likely you're going to get a much worse offer than that. So you're going to actually lose money. So we had 3 decisions. It's very similar to what you have mentioned. Is either to keep the contractor as it is, either to change the contractor with someone else indefinitely, or reduce the contractor scope. So after the analysis, we came out the winning decision is the reduction of the scope. It was reduced not, as you said, stations, it was reduced in terms of type of work. Because we need to maintain foundations, we need to have the foundations for the pumps ready. We need to have everything, infrastructure ready. So he had 4 stations, but without the mechanical works, without the other works. He just had the civil works, underground works. So this didn't disturb the project. It didn't disturb the sequence of the project, the path of the project. It also had us having 2 contractors at the same. It has some secondary risks, let's say, like interface and other problem, but also had other positive risks, which is we actually have 2 competitors. We need people to get closer to finish their works. We are not having only one contractor that only does like a single point of failure. And so it was more of a strategic move to keep the project ongoing in the same path, even though the contractor is not capable of doing the whole scope, but is capable of doing that scope. So that was how we approached it and how we solved it. And not based on the opinions, like we didn't sit down and say, this is the opinions. We did sit down, but after we had the data, the facts, and the uncertainties and the risk in each scenario we have. So we did this with the RDE, the risk data engine I was talking about in the beginning. Is just to understand the underlying uncertainties, disruptions, the things that can happen. The RDE is a quantitative monitoring and control of risk. It's not only for a one-time event. It's not only for like every quarter, let's sit down and say, let's do an RDE. It is something we can think about as like a monthly update of what are the uncertainties and the things that is ongoing in our project. How far and close our things are going. Are we closer to what we are planning for, or are we getting far from this? So, and it supports the main pain points of QSRA and QCRA. The main pain points of this Monte Carlo simulation tool, like schedule risk analysis, cost risk analysis, is usually treated as a checklist, to be honest. Usually they just have a compliance, they have to bring this study, have to do this study, just do it. It's based on dispersed data sources, like, for example, some people opinion there, some other opinion here, and maybe some rough data from there and there. There is no systematic effort that is done when I see like a proper schedule risk analysis. And the bias of the SMEs usually have over-optimism that, okay, we're going to make it, we're not going to be delayed, the project is fine. They only fear that they may lose their jobs. So they just be more optimistic, giving the best approach ever, and to make sure that, okay, but they keep on compressing the rest. I had this project before. They kept issuing the reports that we are going to catch the schedule, we are going to capture the schedule, we're going to capture the schedule, and they are 2 years delayed. It was like the spring was very compressed, and then one moment, okay, we're not going to deliver the project anyway. So, and I had also another situation. I had a contractor. His subcontractor demobilized from site due to financial issues. He's not working. And he keep on reporting he will only be delayed 3 weeks. So that is, he actually not active at site. And he keep on reporting, no, we'll just be delayed 3 weeks. So this kind of optimism is, whenever you see it as a report, like the planners, they only believe, okay, I have this report from the subcontractor, then now that's what I will be reporting from my client, from my manager. But this can be true, but you have to say, what is the certainty that we're going to achieve it in just 3 weeks of delay? Negative 100%. So, that's what we're looking at. The uncertainty within the numbers, the data, the things that we're working on. We need to explore it, understand it. Yeah, you may be reporting this, but this plan is just 1% confidence that will be achieved. What we have an 80% confidence that we may be 6 months delayed, 3 months delayed, whatever. And the ownership of the project team. So there have to be a culture, as I told you, and this like maybe the 2 last points is similar. You have to build a culture and have a culture of combining risk management to decision making. It should not be only you, that a risk manager that's fighting for, let's get the data, let's do the things. It has to be an up-down instruction, an up-down understanding and knowledge. And I guess the pain is real. There's a lot of project that is struggling, not only here in the kingdom, worldwide, that because of a lot of assumptions that has been made, a lot of late monitoring, late capturing of the problems and issues is actually being captured. So, So what we're doing, it's RDE is just put for you a systematic methodology to apply it, to have it for one pilot project you have, or for actually a program you have, to make sure that you are capturing all of the information and the data that in a systematic way to work with it. It reduces guesswork. So instead of I'm just guessing what I can do, what may happen, and actually have a reference and data for this, it can help you to have a defensible risk model, and not just a risk model based on opinions of others or based on a 3-point estimate, or that's it. It gives you a clarity for forecasting to understand, as we said, having these blind spots. What are the things that we may have? So what we use to measure, with this RDE, we measure two main things. We measure the repetitive disruptions we may face in the projects. How many times you have a permit being rejected? How many times you're getting a review cycle? How many times that things are not going as planned, like 10 days of review? That would never happen. So, and the uncertainty and the duration, what is the productivity, that variance we are seeing in the delivery of this, for example, welding, or doing the excavation, or doing any work. Anyway, so we're tracking the uncertainties and the repetitive disruption we are seeing inside of our project. And in addition to this, there is 5 steps we build up this RDE with. First, we need to define the key risk parameters, the parameters that we measure for every risk or for every uncertainty. Because uncertainty is something different than risk. That's something I want you to understand. Risk is when we say there is something discrete that happened or may not happen. And uncertainty is how uncertain are we regarding the duration, regarding the cost, which is something that you have to understand. So, and what is usually drive delays, from my experience, it's not risks. It's not the risk register. What drives delays is the uncertainty in the plans, is what kind of plans you have set and based on what assumptions, and how far it have been shifting from what you have said in the plans. So, and the disruptions that keep on happening, how many times the risk, the rejections you get, how many times of the interruptions that you get from the client or from the contractor or from subcontractor. This kind of interruption keep on going, and people have a very minimal impact, but when you aggregate them, every one day it becomes 100 days of losses due to just some repeated work or repeated errors that happens. And then you have, after you have your parameters that you are measuring, it should not be a gigantic parameter, maybe 10 to 12 parameter we measure. And then we set the collection frequency, understand how many times we're going to collect such information. It can be monthly, it can be weekly, depends on the criticality of what we are focusing on. If this driving the critical path of us, we need to be more, maybe have a more frequency. If it depends on which phase of the project we are. So we can have a better understanding of the cadence of how many times we should be collecting such information. And it should not be, it is designed not to be hectic. It's not designed to be, you have to open 1,000 reports to get a single digit. It's just designed to collect the numbers from your current reports, from the monthly and weekly reports. So you just put a new number every week or a new digit every week. That's it. And we capture and store it in a common way, so you can have an idea of the performance, the uncertainty performance of every project. So not all projects are performing the same, and because we have different contractors, different stakeholders, different management teams. So you can understand also how uncertainty changes from one project to another one. So you can understand how far things are going. So you should not put the same assumption for one project same as the other one. And then the fourth step is understanding the probability distribution that fits to it. It's more of a statistic thing, but it is doable with very simple tools that can give you which probability distribution you should be selecting, that you should be applying with you. And finally, you feed this to your model that is built to understand such kind of uncertainties, such kind of risks. So what decision maker gets out of this? They get a sustainable methodology that have risk-informed decisions that support his decision at any moment in the project, not waiting for months to get data, or not waiting for a year, to not waiting for a very long time just to say this is a good way to do it, and also, what's more importantly, get a defensible and confident outcome. So you just not say, okay, do this, that's what we think should be done. Why? That would be the second question would be asked. Why we should be doing this? Why we should be reducing the scope, not changing the contractor? Why we should be not actually getting a new contractor working with us? Why we do not reduce the scope or increase the scope or change the work or whatever the changes that we may have. So this kind of defense or this kind of explanation, the RDEs very easily can explain it for them. They can give you, this is why, this is the performance of our contractors there, this is the uncertainties we're seeing, this is the amount of work that's still remaining, and based on this, we think that is the best decision for us. And most importantly, it engaged the stakeholders of the organization itself to actually be part of the risk management performance, so they can provide the data, the information, the needed information to drive the decision making. So the decision maker will benefit from this, that he will enable himself to be ready at any moment to take the more confident decision. So, and this is what we are trying to help organization with, is to adopt the risk-informed decision methodology, is to understand how to move from just we are doing risk management for the sake of risk management, is we're doing risk management to support decision at any moment of the projects, of the programs or enterprise itself. So we are not waiting till the problem may happen. We are not waiting till the decision is just have to be done tomorrow or have to be done next week. We are taking understanding, thoughtful readiness to understand how we take the decision next week. So we have built this risk-informed decision adoption program. This adoption program starts with a leadership orientation that gives them an understanding of how we can help the decision makers in any point, either to set their budgets, set their plans, or to get the critical decision for their running projects, or actually understanding any changes any change management they want to do. To understand the uncertainty of every decision, what is making sense, what is not making sense. And next, building up the capability with our CPD credit certified program, the QRM professional training, just to install also the skills and capabilities inside of the people that is working with us. Because we are not doing the whole job, we want the organization to do the job. So we will build up the skills inside of them and make sure that they can apply it. And this comes with the pilot project. So we will have a pilot project for every organization to help them to apply building the first RDE, applying it to their projects, to understand how it works. And so everything makes sense to them. And then all what we're going to do is just govern the process. Make sure that they are applying it right, they are actually supporting the decision maker, they are understanding the concept. So automatically you will have an organization that is capable at any moment of the time to produce what we call a risk-informed decision and to help the organization to thrive. And thank you for all of this. Thank you, and any questions if you have.
You have mentioned earlier in one of the slides QSRA and QCRA.
Quantitative schedule risk analysis and cost risk analysis.
Cost and schedule. Thank you.
So, correct. The silence in the room. Is it questioning or it's, I'm not understand?
Over what sort of period of time from 0 to 3? What's the kind of duration of that? Is it like a 3-day course?
Yeah, so we have that introduction, and this is like more of a 2-hour, maybe a 1-hour session. The orientation to leadership tells them what we do, what we have to deliver. And then we have a capability building. This is a 24-hour training course, contact hours, 24 contact hours. And the pilot project is just, we're going to have maybe 1 to 3 months of piloting the first RDE for one of the projects, making them understand what they can do, what they cannot do, and how to do it. So they build the first RDE, they can sense the feeling of how it can help them. And then this team is now capable of doing what we are saying we can do, and they can replicate it to other projects. So at the end, they will have an organization that can do all of this, and also that we can govern them just to guide them, to give them how they can guide, because any special cases, any special scenarios, so we can have a better approach inside of the organization.
You mentioned the RDE.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Risk data engine.
Is it something you have, you can apply it, or something?
Yeah, this is a methodology we apply in our consultation, in our projects. And we help organizations to, when we are building a schedule risk analysis, cost risk analysis, we're not just building it out of just opinions. We're building it out of data, data-driven, and then enhance it maybe with opinions for things that we don't have data for. So eventually you have, it's like an engine driving the analysis, driving the...
So it's extra data that you bring in, or it's...
we collect it from inside the organization. Yes. We dig down inside of your organization from your current reports, and this what we build out from it, the RDE. It is very intuitive and very straightforward. It doesn't have to be data scientist or something like that, but it's just a steps we follow, a systematic steps we follow, just to get it, to have a clear idea for decision maker or for even the model itself. You can defend the numbers. What the main problems of, to be honest with you, one of the main problems of QSRA and QCRA is how believable it is. Because usually what happens that you have sit down with what usually I see some practitioners do. They will sit down, I need to sit down actually. So we find some practitioners do is to assume that, okay, let's sit down on the table and I see a 3-point estimate, I put a minimum, most likely, and a maximum, and that's it. We are finding this is the numbers, and run a simulation, and then the results are not believable. Or it's just customized to be believable, like to say, we are not going to be delayed more than 1 month, that's it, and we just adjust the schedule and it goes. And that's lose the credibility of the whole risk management practice itself when you find out that you are not giving them what they want to hear. You're just giving them something that they maybe just want to hear, like this. Like, we're not going to be delayed, that they want to hear. But the idea is not to drive the problems to them, is also drive the solutions to them. So when you have data, you know where the pain is, what we need to solve first. Is it resources problem? Is it a contractor problem? Is it a material problem? Is it a scope problem, a design problem? So you're not going there with, okay, we have put a 3-point estimate for the schedule risk analysis, we're going to be delayed 3 months, and that's it.
Or 10%.
Or 10% contingency, and that's it.
So we get back one step about qualitative risk, okay? How we get a good probability for probability and impact, okay? For how we get a good probability for this risk, and how good impact for this risk, to be go to next step for quantitative risk.
Yes, what we have, that is what we are talking about here. So to get a good probability, you have to have an understanding of what has happened in the past. Or if you don't have what happened in the past, you have to follow the Bayesian theory to build up the probability of things. But at the end, the impact is something that from the RDE you can actually measure. You can actually, not measure, but at least give a good defensible forecast for it. And for the probability, either if there is two situations, either you have experienced a lot of time before and in different projects, so you have a good probability to calculate from, or you didn't have, so you have to put an SME opinion and then rectify it based on the experience of the new events that is happening and keeping updating it every time. It's not a one-time process. It is a continuous effort to make sure that you are tracking the probability of risk, the impact of risk, and making sure everything is making sense.
Sorry. Yeah, go on.
I just want to understand, because I think everybody around the room appreciates that in our organizations there's different governance structures, number one, and there's different stakeholders, and one of them being the risk fraternity as it is. And we exist within organizations that have a lot of approval committees, that have a lot of different business processes, project lifecycle models that have approval, stage gates, and so on. And this tool, where exactly do we pitch it? Who is going to be the audience? Because that determines how far it can go.
Okay.
Practically on the ground. Because if it comes from the people sitting in this room, you know, it becomes a little bit hard because now we have to sell it. And usually the response that we'll get is, you are selling us something yet again. You know, so I want to say, practically, where would this be best sold at?
It's best.
We've done it in other organizations because
What we do is we usually have these consultations to provide as a QSRA. So what we second question will be asked, how believable, like, why are we saying, from where did you get this information? From where did you get this data? In the previous practices, you will say, okay, this is based on some manager opinion that this is what he think about it. It's a very good question is who you should be pitching it. The pitching is who will be blamed for the delay of the project, who will be blamed for look for who will be, his career will be damaged if the project will be delayed, and he may be replaced if it does happen, if he doesn't know the reality of things inside of the projects. Usually it's a PMO, maybe more than a PMO director. This is where we need to have the good understanding of what is happening in the projects, understanding the real things, not just fluffy numbers that we have added. Because this is like, it heat maps the whole process. If you still keep putting judgmental numbers, random numbers, it's at the end it's becoming a heat map with numbers. So that is what we try to solve. Yeah.
Where I've seen this work really, really effectively is when the development companies stipulate in the contract that the contractor, and so there could be like a site-wide PMO, and then under that the contractor has to have a qualified risk professional that can do quantitative cost and schedule analysis, so that when the development company asks the contractor whether it's a PMO, we need to get the data on a regular cadence. It only works when the person at the contractor level can actually do QSRA.
Yes.
And then putting that in the original contract at the site-wide PMO at the very, very beginning is only the way it works, because without that you get a contractor that's maybe got a PMP,
yes,
one that doesn't know how to do quantitative cost of schedule analysis.
And maybe have just know how to click run simulation and that's it.
Absolutely. This is how we evolve. This is it. We educate the contractors. Now there are many contractors across Saudi Arabia, but none of them can do quantitative cost of schedule.
Yeah, I believe.
But it is a requirement from the DevCos for them to do it. So if we can educate the contractors how to do it, then we can get better data and make better effective decisions.
Perfect. And that's
Last one, I don't know. I'll get back to my mate's question regarding the RDA. How it's different than risk modeling?
It's not risk modeling. It's actually probability distribution modeling, to be technically more. So what we are looking at when you're building a risk model is built based on probability distributions. So if you point at normal triangle distribution or PERT distribution, it should be deleted, by the way, from these tools, because there is no risk because the problem with PERT and triangle, it assumes that the impact is limited. Like it cannot exceed this value. This is the final value. It's made to make it easy to apply probability distribution and stuff like that. So what we have here is a way to actually get a probability distribution that fits the data we have, that actually represent the reality of things, other than just assuming a 3-point estimate, other than putting a value that it doesn't realize. And there is another let's say, thing from this, not only probability distribution. You can get out of it the correlation between the different factors. For example, for that correlation between the contractor that is working in area A and area B, is it the same or different? So if the performance of this contractor enhances, does it help, or there is a relationship between them or not? So you can model real life interconnection or correlation between different different uncertainties in our.
So I understand that it's a wider spectrum.
It's more of the feeder of the risk model. Like if you thought about it. Yeah, I didn't put a graph for it, but think about it as a way to feed in the model. It's not the model itself. It is let's say the backup document for you when you are explaining or defending this model outcomes. So this is what we base on everything. So when someone tell me, why are we saying you're going to be delayed 6 months? I can definitely tell him why. So I have the data, I have the references, I have the performances, I have what has happened, I have the interruptions. That is something people get out of, because interruptions is something that same event happening several times.
So you have some facts behind.
Yeah, so I tell them, okay, every day the workforce go to the site, they get the permit instead of 6 a.m. that we assume, or 7 a.m. that we assume, they get it at 10. So we are losing 3 hours every day. We're getting this like from 2 to 3 hours every day. This kind of disruption is how much time we are losing every month. So we are losing this productivity and losses every month. So instead of the plan that is built on 10 hours working the hours, getting only 5 or 6. So getting them the dimension of how this is impacting our schedule. So if they are planning any financial investment or any implication based on that we're going to deliver in the same date, which is the planner is saying or the reports are saying, we are actually, probabilistically, or we are 80% confident we're not going to finish on the same date. We may be finishing 3 months later than this. So that's, yeah.
When you started the presentation, you were linking the decision making to how can you show better IRR, for example, and how can you see what's the impact on the profitability of the project?
Yeah.
Now that's nice, but sometimes it's easy said than done.
Yeah.
Because we're doing QRA and we're doing QCRA.
Yes.
And we're doing it from a discrete view or angle toward budget, for example, or duration. But when we talk about other elements, IRR, for example, we have a complete other tool, I would say, or model, where we run our IRRs on. And if you need to link that somehow, that's a lot of work because that's another system and not necessarily robust enough to receive your input and start generating an IRRs heat map based on you have to give it a discrete input, and then you look at the IRR, what happens, and another discrete input, and you look at you can't just rebuild the IRR model inside your QCRA and you start seeing your IRR, because it's as you know, like the profitability and IRR perspective is a lot about the correlation between costs, cash outs and cash in and revenues, and it's more complex and it's not as easy as we can say, oh, let's see how our IRR looks if I decide A or B or C. It's much easier, and that's what we do, is look at the budget as a discrete view against our QCRA, or look at our schedule at the QSRA. But honestly, the idea of having an informed decision from a management perspective, where it will lead them to have a clear understanding of the effect on their IRR or profitability, ROI, that would be fantastic. That would be nice to have. But it's from things we tried, honestly, from things that we try to do as well. That's so much, I would say, hard, but it's complex and not practical necessarily.
Okay.
And most of the time, it's more about like what we call in Arabic faza, is a lot of panic. We need to do that, and we put so much effort to do it, but it's not maintainable. It's not. We can't keep it in a way that it can be updated in a sequential, in every quarter or every month. We can do it. It just needs a lot of our efforts, manual work, and SMEs to work on the QCRA, QSRA, and look at the schedule and the impact, and come out with it with a outcome that we can use. It's nice as a big idea, but when we come to practicality kicks in, and you find it hard to employ and deploy actually and implement.
Okay, it's hard till it's done, first thing, and it is what we are saying is it is a complexity of things, how to move from the schedule risk analysis to the IRR and the ROI. First thing, do you have an IRR model or not?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Do you have uncertainties about it? Do you have risk on it or not?
Sorry?
Do you have uncertainties about it, risks added?
It doesn't have,
or is it static?
It doesn't have within it a risk analysis tool.
Okay. It's just a static calculation.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's deterministic inputs.
And that's the pain
And
here.
we have
You're assuming.
as well,
Mm.
when we use to take in some risk based on the risk appetite,
Yes.
and how we would like to go around the project, and what IRR we're more comfortable with, and we move in our contingency accordingly. Of course, we have other issues, but mostly we play the whole thing around the contingency rather on
IRR and ROI.
uncertainties of each element that we're adding into our IRR model, because it's a lot of inputs, a lot of things that correlate to each other. We don't want to have it so much dynamic in terms of up and down, because we check that and suddenly it's not happening.
Yeah, I feel you.
We can't have that in a giga projects and in a multi-billion industries. We can't just do that.
What you're saying is right. This is difficult because it's complex, or you see it as complex. And what you're saying is, what I'm feeling. Yeah, I'm feeling your pain. I'm feeling how hard it looks like on your table. When you imagine the table of the IRR, the models, and the different factors, and so on. But the good news, it is doable, and it's actually done in many ways. And I guess Carlo can maybe agree with me on this.
I'm not sure I understand one point. We do the same in our company, and we do it every week.
Interesting. Then what model you have?
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
The point is what you put in your IRR as input. Because if you put the risks of the projects, how do you select which ones are worth to reach the corporate level? I have spent 6 months building the engine that takes the project risks, elevates them depending on the period of the year, the client. I have some clients here, so don't listen. And we define a threshold that says this is worth, and that threshold is 90% of the job, and we have a CFO who is paid to decide which threshold applies to which risk.
Threshold in terms of
How big it is. We have over 60 billion in projects. Some of them are near completion, some of them have just started. So the dynamics of which risk we will see next month is different. But the key element of what Remy was saying, that I believe might have escaped in the conversation, is risks are discrete. The biggest problem in calculating IRR is the uncertainty. Because if one client pays 3 days late and you are running a very tight budget, you need to go to the bank. And that will take your IRR and it will go off the roof. How do you factor that? You use the previous history. How many times did we go to the bank in a rush? How many clients do we have that in the last 6 months paid 1 day late? How many who paid 3 days late? That's why you have a corporate risk management office which pulls the data from the project, creates the model and obtains a corporate level model and feeds to IRR. Once you have defined which rate is useful for the company, then you have two roads. One is Are you a public company? Are you a non-public company? If you are a public company, you have certain rules. Therefore, that exercise you need to do because it feeds into your value at risk. If you are not, then you just have to make your shareholders happy. But once you have the engine, I don't have them as engine just.
But the engine we're talking
it's not a pitch for
Is it like a
pitch for the
database?
concept.
Is it like a database or
It's a database.
It's a database.
Yes, you can think about it like this.
Since I am an old guy, I use PowerPoint in Excel and will be but you need to have the right sources, and you need to define at corporate level who decides what goes into the model, IRR model. Because there are some elements that are so volatile that your loans and your working capital horizon, they don't care. So they are the background noise. So my doubt is the people who have built the model you are using are so strict on the word deterministic that you use more than once, then they think that once a figure is written in stone, it stays there for 6 months, not even for 6 days. You need to decide what is the band you allow. You start getting scared when you are 10% you will lend, 5% you will lend. So there might be some conversation between your project team and your finance corporate team that may need to take place. I was hired to do this in my company, so I know we didn't have it 1 year ago.
Yeah, we're doing actualization. We're doing actualization on our model to show how we're doing against our IRR on a monthly basis.
Perfect.
But again, that's not a risk. We're not talking about just
it's just actuals.
Based on the information that we know.
The fact. So
the cost that we know, based on the revenue that we collected, and our forecast. We're having it month by month, but it's
what we're trying to, like, I really liked how Carlo explained it. Maybe he's better explainer than me, and maybe better trainer than me. So I like what we're trying to do here is democratize collection and understanding of data. You don't have to be as experienced as Carlo to collect this data, and you can do it. Carlo do it because he already has that experience. He doesn't have to have my RDE to do it. But what I'm trying to do here is to simplify it for you, so you don't have to have me, Carlo, anybody else to actually do it. So we train you, we prep you, we get you ready to actually see what is the trending of your IRR. Are we uptrend or downtrend? Are we actually, and not before, as you said, actualization. We are trying to be far from actual now. We need to be stochastically understanding what are the chances we achieve that planned IRR? What are the most likely values? What are the confidence? What IRR at least we're going to be achieving? Which is, at the end, that's what drives investment ins. That's what drives project ins. That's what drive or strive the whole economy, actually. If the numbers doesn't fit in, if you saw this, I don't know where it is. Yeah. So I put it this for a reason, by the way, because it happens. Project companies get liquidated. I have seen in the past 6 months almost 6 major contractors, major ones, like they do multi-billion dollars, getting out of business. Cannot pay their subcontractors 10,000 riyals. They cannot pay it. The banks confiscate everything they have. So that, because I had some work with them, so they just didn't pay me. So that's why I know. So
we've seen it before. Profitable on paper, but because of liquidity.
So at the end, at the end, if you're getting, this is like this dots is representing the budget and the time. If you're getting really out of your budget and really out of your time, you're getting your IRR out of everything, and your ROI out of everything. So the finance will stop. They will not put money more than this. They will tell you, okay, why we are investing money in this? Just stop loss. So, and that is what we're trying to do with the RDE, is to democratize it for the non-expert to be able to do what the expert can do. So you can actually apply it inside of your projects, apply it inside of your programs, and even apply it inside of operational enterprise activities. So you can understand the losses that happening every now and then. Your budgets, your plans, your EBITDA, your profits, whatever you are targeting, you want to achieve. Are you going to make it or not? So this is the main thing here. And as Carlo said, and I want to reiterate, it is uncertainty that is important more than risk. Risk, you can waste all your time measuring probabilities, seeing what is the probability. When it happens, it happens. But what you can control is uncertainty. You can understand what is happening inside of your project, what is happening inside of your programs, what is happening inside of your enterprise that need to be controlled. So you can, when you control it, you can able to improve your IRR, improve your ROI, lower the uncertainties within it. And risk, you can be ready with it for mitigation action, proactive action, resilience, and so on. But it may happen, it may not. But what is 100% happening is uncertainty. So that is the reason the RD is here, is to measure the uncertainty of things and the interruption of things. So and we are helping people to democratize it for them, to make it able to apply it from day one, not to have to like look at the sky, think the model is very complex, and let's put the 3-point estimate and that's it, and that's what all we can do, and run the model. So at the end, you get the model, you get the chart, you get it very fluffy, very beautiful, and Safran is very good at this, and at the end, it's not useful at any point. So that is the shift that I actually made this event for, is to make the shifts that we're not doing schedule risk analysis, cost risk analysis. I'm the most active one that's saying this all the day. But at the end of the day, it is useless if it's not going to support decision making. It's useless if it's not going to support an objective, to actually help an organization to take a very early decision before things are getting very much worse. That is actually unbearable to continue like this. So, or even correct the course. Maybe you can have, still now, you have time to correct the course before it becomes a major problem. So that's why we are here. That's why I made this event, just to explain this connection between decision making and risk management. So I hope I made it clear. Yeah.
So it's all about decisions. So let's say going back to the case study, we have been through that. So
you have the same situation?
Yeah, we have been through that. Different contractors.
By the way, I've got some real life incident that happened, but because it's just I cannot disclose all of this.
And even the solution or the mitigation we provided, we went also through that. So we have the definition of descope the work, rescope the work, and it's ongoing.
It's how to cut it is the most important.
Yeah, and how to do it. So it is now like how this product will support us in front of the decision maker. When you go and tell him, we have this KRIs, we have this information, and early, and you know the people have different biases, and they all say, yeah, we will recover, we will come back, we will do that.
You always, in every organization at the top level, you find someone that need the truth, that doesn't need the bias. And I understand from your point of view, sometimes if you report, you're going to be really delayed, you're going to be really having troubles. Trust me, there is someone who needs to listen. He actually asking for the truth, but he never get it because everybody else doesn't want to provide.
The role that with the risk, you are giving the truth earlier based on the information you have right now.
And not the truth, by the way, and this is something I want to really stress on. It's not the truth. I'm giving a solution earlier. I'm giving a solution which is doable. Like it's not, for example, after the contractor have mobilized, and after everybody is working there, and there is people who have been assigned to the project, and salaries being paid.